Good morning. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We have an hour to get through a ton of material, so I'm just going to get right into questions. Well, if you want to learn anything about our panelists, please look at your review materials. I just want to get right into the conversation. I want to start with a proposition and see how you all react to it. My proposition is that there's an investment boom building in the United States right now, from money going into AI, money going into labor-saving technology, money going into data storage facilities to house all of this content, money going into electric vehicles and green energy. Do you agree or disagree? Is there an investment boom building in the United States right now?
Investment boom building itself, yes. The ability to be able to commit and complete that boom might be more challenging if we don't invest in the training required to sufficiently staff up to accomplish those goals, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the skills are changing, though, in terms of what is needed for that boom. But absolutely, we're seeing, I think that reshoring initiative is bearing fruit, and we're seeing a lot of those changes, and the technology advancement is accelerating.
Jason?
Certainly, there's a boom going on, but also to a degree, a little bit of a recalibration. Just really trying to make sure that we're understanding what manufacturing means to this nation and the importance of it and the relevance of it. We may have drifted a little bit away from that, so part of this boom is to make sure that we maintain our security and our capabilities as a nation.
So I want to follow up on this. You talk about a recalibration. So Jason, you started your career in manufacturing, I believe, as a tool maker some 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. How has the work of a manufacturing employee, how is it different today compared to when you started as a tool maker 30 plus years ago? What is the job description?
Sure, and I share this a lot with our students. When I started in manufacturing, it was very manual. It was very labor intense. It took a lot of head count to get to an end product and a lot of steps. Modernization has allowed us to expedite that process and condense it dramatically. It does require a different skill set, a higher level skill set. It did raise the bar on the necessary skills to be successful in that environment. Certainly technology is integrated into all of our lives, just even with our phones. Starting in the late 80s, early 90s, very manual processes, but now very modern, clean, safe. We've been able to eliminate, people fear automation, but it really impacts primarily those roles that are very redundant and injury prone, quite honestly. So I feel it's also a much safer environment.
And what does that mean for workers, for the kinds of workers who are going to be getting jobs in manufacturing facilities? The skill sets that are required of them?
I think that it creates different lines of effort that can be implemented into a modern manufacturing facility. So we still have very much fundamental skill sets that are necessary and needed, like welding, fabricating, CNC machining. But now we're starting to see things like additive manufacturing making an impact where we used to have casting and forging houses. Now we're actually growing parts through 3D printers and technologies. So it certainly raises the bar of necessary skill sets and understanding, but I think it also gives you a better understanding of how all these processes collaborate with each other.
Hernan, you're a military veteran. The U.S. military is described as the best trained fighting force in the world. So let's talk about training. What can the private sector and the public sector, for that matter, learn about training a workforce for the 21st century from how the military has been doing it over the last 30, 40 years?
70, 80.
Well, hundreds.
But yeah. I run workshops for warriors.
I'm assuming you haven't been training workers for 70 or 80 years.
But it's part of our initiatives is the Fountain of Youth was one of the things we found. But,
okay, yeah, okay.
No, I run workshops for warriors, so if you're out there, if you go to wfw.org, you can learn more about us, but we run a compressed training program that provides compressed training, nationally recognized credentials, and then placement of veterans and transitioning service members into advanced manufacturing careers throughout America. This is our 17th year doing that. What we found is The Department of Defense has been the training pipeline for America's manufacturing force since World War II. And America has been kind of skating by on this pipeline that's been turned off after World War II, and we're still reaping the benefits. So if you get veterans that are honorably discharged, that perform well, capable, competent, show up on time, they respond very well to compressed training that leads to nationally recognized credentials. Because military personnel like to be part of a team, they like to collaborate, they like to see their career progression. So they've been a fantastic force. We have almost 1,300 graduates of our program at Workshops for Warriors with a 94% placement and retention rate since 2008. And the only complaint we've ever gotten from our employers from all 50 states where we have our graduates is, how can we get more? And so I think it's a perfect pool of people.
How do you've used the phrase compressed training. How do you define compressed training?
We provide compressed training programs that are 16 weeks long, 9 hours a day, 5 days a week, and all of them are married to nationally recognized credentials. So you provide that veteran a passport for financial freedom with portable and stackable credentials, so that young lady that served 8 years in the Marine Corps can then take her skill sets and her credentials, go work at Boeing for 4 years, then go work for GE for 4 years, then go to United Technologies Corporation for 4 years, and she keeps building up her salary, keeps building up her skill sets in a way that's industry agnostic, but that helps our nation as a whole.
Now, Amy, I want to talk to you about the role of community colleges in retraining the American workforce. So I spent 26 years as an economics writer. I can't tell you how many times I talked to economists who said that community colleges were the bridge to retraining an American workforce, you know, particularly the parts of the workforce that were dislocated by global trade. Did community colleges live up to that promise of helping workers transition from old manufacturing jobs that were dislocated to new work?
Yeah, so I would say the quick answer is yes, they have helped significantly. And yet I would also say that they could do so much more. Community colleges are incredibly under-resourced, and we keep our tuition low. As an example, to go for an entire year at Cincinnati State Technical and Community College, it only costs $6,000, which is staggeringly low. We love that because it creates access, and that's true for all community colleges across our country. And we see that access. We see those first-time folks that have never had a parent or a relative that has gone into higher ed come in, as well as individuals who are displaced come to our educational institutions and get trained up. But there's a challenge in that we have very limited resources. We keep our tuition very low. We have a very finite number of dollars coming from our state institutions, and it makes it very difficult to obtain the equipment we need to make sure that we're training appropriately. It also makes it difficult for us to attract new people and make sure that they're fully aware of the programs that we have.
So I want to push back a little bit on this idea that community colleges lived up to this promise. So I spent a lot of time in writing about trade over the last 20 plus years, looking at trade adjustment assistance programs, talking to workers in places like Hickory, North Carolina, who worked in furniture plants, were told you got to go reskill. A lot of them didn't have kind of basic literacy skills, and ended up with jobs as phlebotomists for half the pay that they were making in their old factory plants. So, I mean, is there any fairness to say that a lot of workers were left behind, and there was something in this transition that didn't work, and lessons that we need to learn from?
I think I think that's fair, and I think the thing that is different is a little bit about what was just being said about our economy shifting. And that shift in terms of advanced manufacturing needs, there's a greater level of sophistication and knowledge to do these jobs. And some of the folks were in positions that were extremely low skill, and they didn't have those aptitudes to be able to rise up to take those other positions. And I do think that there were some folks that were left behind because of that, and that is difficult. But I do think that is our new economy. Our new economy, those jobs where you're picking up a box and moving a box, those jobs are gone or going away.
So, I mean, this comes back to my original question to you, Jason. Could the Jason of 1990, who started out as a die maker, get a job on a factory floor today?
I would hope so, yes. Yes, I do believe so. One of the things that I think is important is communities look at training as a community effort. One of the things I'm very proud of that we've done in Danville that really helped us to become part of a government pilot program called Accelerated Training in Defense Manufacturing is we leveraged a lot of local and state and private money to develop a workforce pipeline. And that starts at the middle school level and can move all the way through a 4-year degree. And it's important that communities embrace that and collaborate with that. And then that workforce pipeline has multiple exit points for both employers and the people in the pipeline, because you will always need various levels of skill sets and positions within a dynamic manufacturing investment or situation or environment. So it's important for us to make sure that we're accommodating those folks, that they're not left behind. We hyper focus on all the advanced skills, but there are other skills necessary to make a product go from A to Z.
So I want to follow up on this point about skills. So as part of today's event, Morning Consult is out with a poll of manufacturing workers asking about their retraining and what kind of skills they're looking for. And what jumped out at me on that poll was that the two skill sets that people said that were most in demand were, first, communication, and second, problem solving. Like, this isn't about fixing a machine or learning a code. It's basic human-to-human social interaction skills. How does that resonate with all of you? And what does that tell you about the modern workplace, whether it's in a factory floor or anywhere else, in terms of what people need to succeed at work today?
Well, I find that very helpful in the military. We say we'd rather have a person that you have high confidence in and maybe low aptitude, but again, it's all relative. You'd rather have somebody that you trust to tell you that things are wrong, that it shows up 100% of the time, versus somebody that maybe is not as truthful to you, but shows up 50% of the time, but is excellent at their job when they do it. If you're running a manufacturing facility now, it's easy to down $1 million engine just by leaving some thought in it. So it takes a lot of intestinal fortitude to tell your boss, I left a bolt in that engine, we have to stop and disassemble it. I think that communication is very important. Having, I think, honest communication and be able to communicate effectively in a collaborative environment is crucial. That's one of the things that veterans are very good at doing.
Yeah, at Cincinnati State, we have a very robust co-op program. That co-op program is co-curricular, so as students are still going through their learning experience, they're in jobs, and then we get feedback from those employers about what is it we need to do with our curriculum. Many of those co-op employers are also participating in advisory committees. All of our programs have advisory committees that help inform curriculum, and those topics come up repeatedly. So embedded in our curriculum are kind of pause moments where people are reflecting on what did we just do in problem solving, what happened with teamwork, where were there some critical events that happened on this particular project or this fabrication where there was some learning. And those skills are infused, through their educational process, because it's exactly what we're hearing from employers, that they need not only those skills, and we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to leave us and be successful in the workplace.
I agree 100%. We do the same in our programs. It's not 100% focused on hard skills. We also incorporate soft skills. So we try as much as we possibly can in our multiple paths to cross-pollinate. For example, our CNC machining program cross-pollinates with our metrology quality assurance program. So the parts they're manufacturing goes over to QA. Those QA students will then inspect them, and we'll coach them how to have those dialogues, how to have those communications, and how impactful and necessary they are. We also have them incorporate in Lean and Kaizen initiatives where they'll come in and look for ways to communicate, ways to improve and bring in efficiency. But communication in a manufacturing environment, I can tell you from leading manufacturing environments, has to be a two-way street. And that's the only way that it will succeed. In your survey, those communication skills are critical, but the industry partner has to be receptive to them as well. We always worked under a premise of the person doing the job knows it the best, so we need to listen to them.
So we talked about the old days of, a person having to lift a heavy box and move it from point A to point B, and now we're talking about communication skills. do men have the same advantage in the modern workplace that they had in the old manufacturing workplace? And how is that changing the way you see these workplaces function?
I do believe men have an opportunity, as the father of 3 daughters, to improve. That is for sure. But no, I think that that is a skill set, and it has to be approached as such. You can't just assume people know how to communicate. You can't assume that people know how to function within a team environment, or what are those roles and responsibilities within a team environment. So there is a responsibility to make sure we educate in that aspect. But I do feel, we certainly have facilitated a better environment for open and engaging dialogue. Even your processes and procedures can incorporate that to make sure that's a part of your corporate culture. But it goes back to culture.
I want to move quickly, unless, Hernan, you have anything you want to add?
Well, all I can say is I'm so happy that I don't have your issue. We're really fortunate. We have people that have been trained by the world's finest fighting force for 4 to 40 years, so they already come in knowing how to do these things. And it's Workshops for Warriors is like the Marine Corps of manufacturing. Our goal is to help rebuild America's manufacturing force and give every veteran and hardworking American a lifelong dignified career.
All right. So rebuilding America's manufacturing force. We have an election coming up. One of the big issues that hasn't really been talked about a lot is how America approaches its international trade relationships. Donald Trump has talked about 10% across the board tariff increases, 20% or even potentially 60% on China. The potential Harris administration is looking more at status quo. Are tariffs a solution to America's manufacturing industrial problems?
So I might offer maybe a different way of looking at it. It seems to me that the national security aspect is the thing that is a common ground narrative for both different campaigns,
right,
to bring companies back. And so I think that in reshoring to make sure that we can fabricate the things that we need to here. So
Chips,
so I think that is the thing that we have seen and we continue to see.
All right. Well, so let me phrase it a little bit differently. Do you think that raising tariffs substantially on America's trading partners will help the manufacturing sector or hurt it? I'll start with you, Hernan.
I don't know if tariffs is the right place to start. If you think about it, America is the only industrialized nation that doesn't have a nationally subsidized training program for manufacturing. The only industrialized nation in the world. So tariffs is one part of it, but hope is not a strategy. So what are you going to do? How are you going to get the 803,000 unfilled manufacturing jobs that are unfilled right now, according to the January Deloitte study, that's rising to 3.8 million unfilled manufacturing jobs by 2035? How do you fill those jobs without training? So we keep talking about the jobs and the people, but the bridge between those is compressed training with nationally recognized credentials, and then training and placing that workforce in all the skill sets and manufacturing careers that are required to rebuild America's manufacturing force. Tariffs is a way of funding that, but you need to have that critical piece.
Right, training, not tariffs, is your answer. Jason.
I would agree. I think we have to be more intelligent and in how we attack this problem, and it's really from two sides. Training is definitely a huge component of it. We have a lot of Americans that just need to be encouraged and mobilized that aren't, or haven't been reached or haven't been touched. I also feel like you can't get enough humans in the pipeline to address the gap that's emerging. I think it has to be approached by both sides. One side is the workforce development, the other side is optimization and gaining efficiencies within our manufacturing, and that has to be through technology.
All right, Amy, you have 50 seconds to answer the final question.
Okay.
And it's now down to 45.
Okay.
AI, are you seeing the effects of AI in Cincinnati community colleges right now? Give us your brief download on it.
Yes, it's hitting pretty hard and fast. It's moving very quickly, and so we are integrating AI into all of our educational experiences. It's going to be the expectation of every employer that employees are AI literate.
Is it going to kill jobs or create them?
I think it's going to do both. I think there are a lot of jobs, again, those repetitive kind of jobs are going to go away. But those that can critically think and can be creative in their approach, those folks are going to be able to succeed.
Think critically, communicate, problem solve. Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.